Jake Paul has just made the announcement that he is retiring from the sport of boxing and is now moving on to the UFC.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You read the title correctly. I've officially signed as an MMA fighter.
He gets a call from Dana White, who offers him an 8-fight contract where he has to give a rematch to every UFC fighter he faced in boxing, plus an additional 3 fights of his choosing. Jake Paul agrees to this contract, but on one condition. If he wins more than half of his fights, Dana White has to increase the fighter pay by 50%.
Hey, people think I don't like the UFC. I love the UFC. I grew up watching the UFC. But they need to pay their fighters more, and that's really where the riff and the back and forth came from.
You don't like the way we pay our fighters? Too fucking bad.
In order for Jake Paul to help the UFC fighters, he will need to win 5 of the 8 fights on his UFC contract. And he will start off by rematching Ben Askren, who he knocked out in boxing back in 2021.
Get my motherfucking money, Jake! Get my motherfucking money, Jake! Get my motherfucking money!
And just like in the past, the speed and power of Jake Paul is too much for Ben Askren to handle. He gets knocked out 30 seconds into round number 2. Oh shit! And after witnessing Jake Paul breeze through Ben Askren on his first UFC fight, Dana White puts together a plan that will keep him from having to increase the UFC fighter pay. He teams up with John Jones and Paulo Costa to create some of the most powerful steroids that he will give to the remaining fighters, giving them a power boost of 7%. And that's likely why, moving on ahead to our next fight with Tyron Woodley, Jake Paul just tries to go in there and easily knock him out like he did before. But unfortunate for him, Tyron Woodley is on that secret juice, giving him enough stamina to spam one submission after the other. And after defending all of these submission attempts, Jake Paul's stamina is looking severely low. And in only round number 2, Tyron Woodley hits him with a Von Flue choke, giving him the first loss on his UFC contract. We move on to our next fight, where Jake Paul will have to rematch Anderson Silva in the UFC. And I'm guessing the steroids not only give you a power boost, but they also turn back time, because the Anderson Silva he's going to be fighting is 35 years old and in his prime, not like the version he fought back in 2022.
Good. So here we go with the start of round 1. Anderson Silva
Oh, good front kick.
2004 to
Oh, sh**. Anderson, absolute one-sided mismatch. I don't think Jake Paul expected the young prime version of Anderson Silva, because he had no answers for whatever the fuck this is.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
The whole fight, Anderson just did whatever he wanted to, hurting him multiple times. And only 1 minute into round number 3, this happens. Oh, nice. Oh, dead. After 2 back-to-back losses for Jake Paul, it looks like Dana White's plan was working flawlessly. If Jake continues to lose like this, the UFC fighters will never get a pay increase and will likely have to get a second job.
My boy got paid in pesos at UFC Noche, so he gotta get a job at the market. Que no, Raúl?
Right. That leads us into the next fight on his contract, where he has to give a rematch to Nate Diaz, who he fought in boxing back in 2023. And fighting Nate in the UFC is far different than fighting him in boxing. Bro gets hit with multiple submission attempts, just getting absolutely beat up on the floor. And going to the feet, Jake Paul thought he was winning, but Nate Diaz comes right back with his own combinations and hurts him real bad. And in round number 2, it was the same story. Jake thinks he's hurting Nate Diaz, but then Diaz just comes right back and
I tell you what, man, his face was open up and he's still just coming. You've got to respect that. You've got to respect Nate.
It was looking like Jake was headed straight towards a loss until Nate Diaz tries to go for a takedown, and this happens. Oh, bro, what the fuck? Wow. After this dominant win over Nate, Jake Paul moves on to face bare knuckle king Mike Perry. The fight started and ended with Jake Paul hurting Mike Perry several times, getting the knockout in only round number 2.
those fighters are going to do offense.
I'm trying to force some sort of action.
That's it.
After this win over Mike Perry, Jake Paul has just completed the first half of his contract.
Nice.
If he wants to complete the full thing, forcing Dana White to increase the fighter pay, he needs to win 2 of his next 3 fights against anyone he chooses. And of course, the first person he wants to fight is none other than the notorious Conor McGregor.
What the fuck is up, you Irish cunt? Good morning, Conor McGregor. I know you're probably beating up old dudes in a bar right now.
Shut your mouth, mate.
At the start of the fight, it looked like McGregor was extremely rusty, throwing out kicks that were 10 miles away.
What the fuck was that?
Unfortunately though, he finds his range and he is now in control of the Void.
Let's get the Void going right now, okay? Boom.
Hitting Jake Paul with several combinations, hurting him multiple times. It looked like McGregor was going to be the one that wins this fight. He was doing good all the way up until the point where he throws a leg kick that gets checked, breaking his other ankle. And it was at this point Jake Paul goes in for the kill, almost getting the win over McGregor in round number 1. Jake follows him to the ground where he almost gets submitted by an armbar. Fortunately though, the round ends, and only a few minutes into the next round, this happens. After this brutal knockout over McGregor, Jake Paul's confidence is at an all-time high, even to the point where he chooses to call out for his next fight, the former heavyweight champion, Daniel Cormier.
Daniel Cormier, I'll beat the out of your fat ass too.
Well, I was sitting at the table and somebody said, "Oh, Jake Paul's here." So I look behind me and he's like making faces at me. So I just walk over there. I go, "Don't mess with me. Don't play with me." I said, "Don't play with me. I'm not a kid to be messing with like that. This kid wants to fight, like seriously fight me. Fight me in mixed martial arts. And this is not going to be fun. I'm telling you right now, at 42 years old, bad back and everything, I'm going to torture him. And I'm going to hurt him."
And the fight started out with Daniel Cormier being the first person to get cut after Jake Paul throws a nasty right hand. But although Daniel Cormier is 44 years old with a bad back, he did exactly what he said he was going to do and absolutely destroy Jake Paul the entire fight.
Come here, big fella.
After getting beat up on the floor, Jake Paul somehow makes it to his feet, but then immediately shoots for a takedown, getting caught in a submission. I don't know why he did this. Daniel Cormier can't get the submission locked in, so he rolls all 250 pounds on top of Jake Paul.
Damn!
And just starts beating him up once again.
Fight back, nigga! Fight back!
And moving on to round 2, I don't know why Jake thinks it's a good idea to take Daniel Cormier to the floor. Like even Khabib don't want that smoke with Cormier.
I'll never let you submit me, brother. No chance. No chance. This is baby offense. This is baby offense. Uh-oh! No problem.
And with absolutely zero ground game, Jake gets hit with not one, but 2 submission attempts, being forced to tap out 3 minutes into the second round.
Oh, that has got to be it.
He's got it.
There's the tap. Daniel Cormier.
After getting beat up by Daniel Cormier, Jake Paul is down to the last fight on his UFC contract. And with him needing only one more win to increase the UFC fighter pay, Dana White volunteers himself to be the last person that Jake Paul faces.
Get out of my way.
Dana White claims that if he gets the win, Jake Paul will have to leave the UFC and combat sports forever. And if Jake wins, more money for the UFC fighters. The fight started out with the UFC president Dana White looking a bit rusty. I mean, he is 55 years old after all, so. Slowly but surely though, Dana White finds his range and it looks like he is in control of the Void.
Let's get the Void going right now, okay? Boom.
It was just one after the other, Jake Paul getting rocked and hurt the entire second round. It was becoming very clear that Dana White does not want to increase the fighter pay, throwing out one combination after the other. Bro's trying to go for the kill early on in the second round. In hindsight, this was a mistake because if you look at the already low stamina bar of Dana White, each punch he throws is chipping away more and more as stamina he doesn't have to spare. And with the combination of wild punches, low stamina, and a broken nose, it was only a matter of time before this happened in round number 3.
Well, he is really...
Oh, damn. Jake Paul has just completed his UFC contract, and Dana White now has to increase the UFC fighter pay.
Oh, just give me my money. Just give me my money. Just give me my money. Give me my money.